about your relationship with Dave about his work at the clinic. Lockwood, on the other hand, will probably throw everything at you at the kitchen sink, no matter what he says. Maintain your composure. Don't let him bait you into saying anything that we might all regret later.
I understand. All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Timothy Sawyer presiding.
All right, gentlemen, let's get on with it. Mr. Webster, call your first witness, please.
Okay. The defense calls Dr. Ben Martin. Stand.
Here we are. Ooh, get here. Oh, gosh, hurry up, it's cold.
Oh, it is, but this is so heavy.
You know, I'm not so sure I shouldn't have just stayed in another dorm room for tonight if I could have found one.
Courtney, that is nonsense because the smell of paint from your room is throughout the entire dorm by now. Anyway, you're here.
Can you believe all that luggage? Gosh, I haven't gone to this much trouble to get ready for a date since prom night, Lake Forest last year.
Yeah, well, my dear, you will find out that there are a few differences between here and Lake Forest. Like, the pace a little slower, but I think the men are more charming.
Not the few I've met.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your date was really special.
Oh, he is. It's just some of the other characters I've been running into at Kingsley make me say that.
Okay, come on, I can't stand the suspense anymore. Let me see it.
See what?
See what? Your dress, of course. I am dying to see what my little cousin is going to be wearing tonight.
Oh, Mary, you make such a big deal out of it. It's just a dress.
Yeah, just a dress. Well, I can imagine if Preston is still spending money on his little girl here, like my father did on me, then, honey, you are going to be the talk of the
He
college.
did buy it especially for me. I just brought it along to college. You know, just...
Courtney, it's gorgeous. Oh, I repeat, my dear, those other girls aren't going to stand a chance.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated.
Dr. Martin, you're a physician who works with Dr. Dave Phillips, isn't that so?
Yes, we're associates at the Chesterfield Free Clinic.
How long have you known Dr. Phillips?
Well, I've been working with him for nearly 2 years, and I knew him professionally for several years before that.
Now, during all that time, over those years, you've noticed substantial changes in your colleague, isn't that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is answering his own question.
Objection sustained. Restate your question, Mr. Webster. Yes, Your Honor. Have you noticed substantial change in Dr. Phillips, both before you started working with him, that is, and now?
That would be an understatement.
Meaning, what, please?
There are many factors involved.
Well, go ahead and explain.
Well, when I first met Dave Phillips 4 years ago, he was, at the time, he was one of the most gifted and talented doctors this area has ever known. But,
Yes?
well, he was going through a real battle. Dave was an alcoholic.
Oh, what?
He was in pretty bad shape. His wife had divorced him, and he was drifting from town to town.
Is this the man you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Well, it certainly appears to me that Dr. Dave Phillips has overcome quite a lot in order to regain his position of respect in the community.
That's speculation, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Just tell me how, precisely, Dr. Phillips is different now, since he's been working with you.
Well, he's a completely different man than the one who left his wife and children 4 years ago. He's turned over a new leaf, so to speak. In fact, I haven't seen him touch a drop of alcohol in nearly 4 years.
And as a doctor, professionally speaking, of course.
Well, as I mentioned before, since he's changed, once again become one of the most dedicated men I've ever known.
Meaning?
His work is remarkable, and it's effective, not only at Chesterfield, but at Kingsley General. Anyone working at either of those places will tell you exactly the same thing.
You mentioned dedication. Now, what would dedication involve?
Objection! Overruled, Mr. Lockwood.
Answer the question.
Well, dedication. It's not uncommon for Dave to work 12 to 14 hours a day, every day, even to the point of turning down social engagements in order to treat additional patients, to do research. He's always done that, until recently.
Until recently.
Yes, since Kate's, the death of his ex-wife has affected Dave deeply.
Has it affected his performance as a physician?
Oh, no, not at all. Even though the notoriety of this case has made it very difficult for him. Even to the point of being abused by some of the patients. His professional manner and ethic, spotless. They're spotless.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions right now.
Very well. Mr. Lockwood, do you wish to cross-examine the witness? Yes, Your Honor, I certainly do.
It's Lori Martin. Would you please let me come in?
Look, I know why you're here, and I just don't want to get into it, Lori. Look, I'll admit to you, Nancy, that I am here because I heard of your engagement to Dan Myers.
Well, you're obviously not here to congratulate me.
I am not here to argue with you, Nancy. Really, please believe that.
The only thing I believe is that Dan loves me. He needs me just as much as I need him, and I don't care what your mother or your husband have to say about it.
Well, he is married. He's married in name only. He and his wife haven't lived together in ages. And as soon as this Mexican divorce comes through, we're going to be married. He loves me in spite of this. Well, I hope that's true, Nancy, for your sake. But what if you're wrong? What if you destroy my husband's career and then find out that Dan Myers was lying? Look, Lori, I don't want to get into this. Will you please kindly leave? Okay, Nancy. I'll leave. But if I could really prove that Dan Myers was lying, would you question his devotion to you?
I know it.
Well, what a beautiful dress. That young man I talked to on the phone simply doesn't have a chance.
Peter called?
Well, he didn't leave his name. He just said that he knew you were here and that he would be over tomorrow evening, which of course is tonight.
Well, that's funny because I ran into him today and he didn't mention calling.
Well, it really doesn't matter. He will see you soon enough.
If I ever get ready.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? You'd like to keep your young men waiting.
Father, I imagine that Courtney's a little better at that kind of thing than I used to be.
Well, I'm not quite so sure about that. I think that sort of thing runs in the apartment we live in.
You're right, Uncle Charles. And I better start getting dressed.
Oh, what time's young man coming?
6 o'clock, and then we're going out to dinner and formals at 8. I should be home sometime around 1.
1? What would your father say?
Uncle Charles. Now, this is 1983, and I am a college student.
I know. If your father trusts you, I suppose I should too. I won't even wait up for you, how's that?
And speaking of time, I had better start putting my face on.
Well, you can use Eric's room if you want to. It's the first door on the right at the top of the stairs.
Yeah, if you can get past all the electronic games. But at least you'll have a place for drawing things.
Just as long as there's a mirror.
Oh, Mim, that really brings back a few memories. You were quite a social butterfly yourself, and always the most beautiful. Although I hate to say it, even Paul looked good as long as he was beside you.
Well, I have to admit, it does take me back quite a few years to be with my cousin, and somehow it just makes me feel younger, though, and more alive.
Mim, you sound like somebody my age. What, isn't, romance going to be a part of your life? What's in the cards for you?
Daddy, don't you understand? My life is in God's hands. It's not in pieces of paper.
Yes, I know about that. But is it so wrong to think about involving yourself with a man again?
Well, no, maybe, but That kind of responsibility, I just don't need that right now. I've got to look for a job and find a place of my own for both Eric and me, and I think that's about all I have time for now.
Well, don't you rule it out. Paul is dead, Miriam. And whether you are willing to admit it or not, Eric is in great need of a good father image.
I know you're right about that, but not yet. And listen, I think Courtney probably needs my help up there, so I'm just going to run off and see if she can find...
Yes, well, I think her young man is going to be coming very soon anyway, too. I'll take care of that.
Dr. Martin, you said that the defendant has suffered deeply since the death of his ex-wife.
Yes, what I mean
Just
is,
exactly how has that affected his work?
well, he hasn't worked quite as many hours.
And he's received abuse from some of his patients.
Yes, because of the press
Does
coverage.
that mean that some patients have refused Dr. Phillips' treatment?
Objection, Your Honor, that is irrelevant. Objection sustained, Mr. Love. Will you restate your question now?
Is it true Dr. Phillips' patients at the clinic have stopped coming in for treatment since the death of his ex-wife?
Yes, some of them have.
How many? What percentage?
I really couldn't say.
10, 20%,
I really couldn't say.
50%?
I couldn't say, but it is substantial. But I'm sure that would
Thank
change
you, that's
once.
enough. Will you help me? Help us understand the defendant better. You're his close friend and associate. Has he ever lost his temper at any of the patients who have been abusing him lately?
Answer the question.
Well, yes, sometimes he has been a little harsh. But see, you have to understand the kind of people that we get in the free clinic sometimes.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, we get a strange mix. A lot of them don't follow instructions. Now, we do try to be patient, but there are those who need a lot of
Need a lot of what?
firmness, maybe.
Firmness, or is it harshness?
Sure, sometimes.
Does Dr. Phillips ever lose his temper?
Sometimes.
Ever strike anyone?
No.
Use abusive language?
No.
Ever lose control at any
No.
time? But earlier in your testimony, you said...
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is arguing. Sustained.
Dr. Martin, did you and your wife ever socialize with Dr. and Mrs. Phillips when they were still together?
No.
That's funny. You're a close associate, but you never went out together socially?
Not really. After Dave got his life straightened out, he and Kate were trying to sort out their problems. And when he did see her, he wanted to see her alone.
And how did Kate feel about that?
Well, quite frankly, she was a little tired of all of Leek or others' advances, of so much socializing.
Well, was Dave Phillips happy, do you think, when he and Kate were together?
Without a doubt. During that period when they were reconciled, he was very happy, especially when he thought they might remarry.
Then you would say that Dr. Phillips was quite depressed when he finally found out that Kate would not remarry him.
Objection, Your Honor. Prosecution is asking for an opinion here.
I thought opinions were what character witnesses were all about. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Webster, do you wish to redirect? No, Your Honor. Thank you. Well, we'll stop right here for the day then. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 10 a.m.
All rise.
Mrs. Lucas, I'll get that. You're early. Come on in. I may have a little wait. I don't think that Courtney will be down for a little while. You must be Mr. Carpenter. Yes, I am. Why? Oh, of course. Courtney's been filling you in on some of our deep, dark family secrets.
Well, it isn't any secret, is it? I mean, about you and her father? When you worked together in Chicago? About your shipping lines that folded?
Yes, well, it would seem that some of our family secrets aren't quite so dark now that Courtney has shed a little light on it. But enough about me. Would you say that was a little bit casual for what you're going to do tonight? I mean, aren't you going to change your clothes or something?
Have you seen... Oh, hi. Excuse me, but is that what you're going to be wearing tonight?
I'm sure Courtney will be happy to see me no matter what I wear.
Well, I didn't mean anything, I'm sorry. I'm Miriam Mason, Courtney's cousin.
How do you?
Yes, and this is my father, Courtney's uncle, Charles.
Oh, we've met. It would seem that he knows quite a bit about us already, ma'am.
Right. What's keeping Courtney?
Well, she shouldn't be too much longer. I mean, after all, this is a big night for her, so I'll tell her that you...
Big night?
Your mother already tried the same line of attack, Lori, asking me whether Dan would marry me if there wasn't a large settlement involved. Well, would he? I'll say the same thing I said to her. Yes, of course he would.
Isn't this the same man that invested your money in Canterbury?
Yes, but that
And
was
didn't you lose all your money? Even though he promised you that he'd make you rich?
Yes, but it was a
Nancy, I'm not just saying all this because of Ben. I'm saying it because I want to help you too.
What do you want me to say?
I want you to realize the possibility that Dan Myers isn't a man of his word, and give me the chance to prove it.
And suppose I give you this chance?
I wouldn't embarrass you, Nancy. Look, the last time I was in here, I really believe that if Dan had not come in here and interrupted us, that you would have changed your mind about the malpractice suit.
Don't you understand? I don't have anything. I don't have a job. I have a huge hospital bill. I have to go through with this. Now, I've already offered to make a deal with Ben where I'd give him a donation towards the clinic, but no, he practically has to spit in my face as a result.
Well, could you blame him when he knows that he's innocent?
What difference does it make if he were all coming out ahead?
The only person that's going to come out ahead in this whole deal is Dan Myers. Aunt Nancy, please, just give me the chance.
You know, I hate to admit this, but you're probably the only Davidson that I really trust. All right, don't embarrass me. If you promise that you will not, and that you really feel that he is being dishonest somehow, go ahead and try.
Oh, Nancy.
But if you're proven wrong, and I'm sure you will be, I don't want to hear any more about this. Do you understand?
Here, have a seat. Let me fix that off. Ready?
You know, back in Lake Forest, I always felt so bound, so trapped. Daddy had this way of hemming me in. And my entire life just all planned out for me. And that's why I didn't come by to visit any earlier. See, I was so afraid that my father had called your father just to make sure that I behaved.
Believe me, I know what you mean by all of that. 'Cause when I was in college, there wasn't one man around who was good enough for me. And in fact, after I married Pa, and for several years, my father still could never decide.
Really? I mean, that's exactly how my father is.
Courtney, that's how all the carpenters are.
Well, I'm just glad to be away from it all. And from the young man that Daddy was grooming. You know, for the first time, I think I feel free. It's so good to know that my date is somebody I've chosen and not the Lake Forest social registry.
How are you, sweetie? Oh, you are just going to have a wonderful time tonight. Just relax, and I know it'll be wonderful. And I promise I'm going to say a special little prayer for you. Pray that everything will be just great. Okay?
Well, you both look very handsome, and I want you to have a wonderful time with your date.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave. I wish you'd stop being such a storehead. Now, you could ask somebody else. You rented this tux? Hey, what about that girl in English class, huh? Belinda, what's her name?
Oh, come on, Pete. You know Belinda's pinned to one of the Alpha guys.
Okay, well, what about, Tina down there at the huddle? She liked you.
I wish, but I got there too late. Somebody beat me to it.
Well, there's also, that girl's name, 666 all the time.
That's enough, Davidson. We both know she's as big as a Kingsley football team combined.
Okay, well, there's your problem. You just discovered it.
What?
It's too stinking particular. Hey, do me a favor tonight. Don't bug me in court, okay?
Oh, great. I have to be there because I'm pledging. What else am I going to do?
Well, you could always hang out at the Punch Bowl, wait for Evie Cates and Brooke Shields to pop by.
Right, and I'm John Travolta. Listen, I'm going to look like a fool in front of the rest of those frat guys.
My pledging days are over, Davidson, unless you let me have at least one dance with Courtney.
Listen. Hey, my happiness should be enough of a reward for you.
I don't know what your problem is. Hey, it would be if it got me into the frat.
You know what? It's the dress Courtney gave you. Sure looks familiar. Address? I thought she was over in the dorm. Oh, they're painting the dorm room or something. She's over here at her uncle's. Let's go.
Ta-da!
Courtney.
Vaughn? I don't believe this. Vaughn, son, or what are you doing in Kingsley?
What do you mean? This is the address your father gave me. I even called yesterday from Chicago. Your uncle said that you'd be here tonight.
What?
Then he is not your date?
I don't know about here in Kingsley, but I always was back in Chicago. I figured I'd find out in person why you hadn't answered any of my letters.